Barry, good to see you. Thanks for making a bit of time to come and have a chat with me. I wanted to kick off the interview with a statement that you made to me that I really liked. I thought it was very entertaining. Look, when we spoke a few weeks back, you said we heal people at the speed of light, which I kind of thought that's something from Star Wars or Star Trek or something. I mean, it just sounded great. I mean, why did you say that? And just tell us about what that means in terms of what you're doing.
Yeah, look, we see a lot of photobiomodulation devices in the beauty industry, um, and they normally have the big budgets. They've been very aggressive in promoting red light therapy for skin rejuvenation,
Yeah, yeah,
collagen boosting, etc. I personally come from a background of exercise physiology and sports science, and I was always interested in, for example, we used to use ultrasound. We had the
yeah,
protocol
yeah,
of rest, ice compression, elevation. But nearly 3 years into the Energy Lounger journey and going to trade shows, I literally seek out people that I can see are visibly in pain, or as I joke, the broken people. They've got a brace
yeah,
on, or
yeah.
they're holding their back, or you can just see in their face that they have pain. Um, and I've just invited these random people to say, hey, look, I can see you're uncomfortable. Do you want to try something? It's only 20 minutes. And at the end of that, you'll feel what you'll feel. We make no statements, we make no claims.
Mhm.
But time and time again, people are just literally blown away with the results in just a 20-minute experience or session. I can't say treatment, you're not allowed to say treatment, but the session that they've achieved amazing results in just by taking a seat.
Okay. So I mean, you've mentioned the tech. I mean, tell us about it.
Yeah, so photobiomodulation isn't new. It's been around many, many years. It's just had many different applications to it. The way that these measurements are done is in a frequency. So that frequency is measured in nanometers. So it's all very scientific. You have meters that will read these, and each of those nanometers are showing different um, outcomes based on the treatment. So, for example, most people have had a far infrared sauna. So, when they have a far infrared sauna, they may not visibly see a red light, but they're achieving nanometers of light beyond the infrareds, beyond the visible
Yeah.
spectrum that will change the biology of the body. So, in an infrared sauna, you don't feel the heat like a traditional sauna when you first get in, but the longer you're in there, the more energy you'll absorb and
Yeah.
the warmer your body gets. So, what I deal with is the near infrared spectrum. So, how do we measure that? The reds are in the 600 nanometers, then the near infrareds are closer to the 600. So, we have an 800 nanometer, which is shown to be very good for mitochondrial stimulation, muscle repair and recovery. We then go into 940 for a bit of deeper penetration for that really true outcome of that 20-minute session. And then there's other people that are working on the brain that go into the 1000
Right.
nanometer range to go through the skull and into the brain to positively lower inflammation in that cranial headspace.
Okay. And is that what it's really all about, lowering inflammation? I mean, and presumably you just sit on your energy lounge. You just lie there, yeah? I mean, is it that simple? I mean,
I mean, literally, I tell everyone, sit down and put your feet up because it's a zero
yeah,
gravity design. You've got no choice but to put your feet right there.
yeah,
So you're going to have your feet elevated during the session. What it's really about is boosting our mitochondria function. So your body runs off something that the mitochondria produces, which is called ATP. So in sports science, we really are focused on this whole cycle of energy production, and photobiomodulation is the same. As we age or as we get injured, that energy production is not as efficient. So
right.
light up regulates that process. So in the example of inflammation, I sort of give this explanation. If we have 100% of energy for the body, and some of that's going to digestion, some of that's going to just staying conscious so we don't
Yeah,
walk off a cliff. When we have pain and inflammation, the body allocates a lot of energy just to manage that. If anyone's had back pain
Yeah.
or injured
Yeah.
their back, you know how draining that is, and you
Yeah.
know how much you just feel totally uncomfortable. So the body receives that signal, but if it doesn't have the energy to do the repair, all it can manage is the inflammation. So I say the action that we're ideally achieving is we're lowering the inflammation and accelerating the repair and recovery of whatever's injured. Or in the case of no injury, we're just preventing those injuries happening, because the more energy we have, the less run down we are, the less chance of injury
Okay.
we
And what
expose
does it
ourselves.
just, I mean, for somebody like me who doesn't, I'm not particularly versed in that area of science. What does it work on? I mean, what sort of things does it help with?
Because we all processes in the body need energy.
Hmm.
So your body is signaling, for example, when you have back pain, your body is really signaling, I have back pain, come and deal with this. If you don't have back pain, it's not particularly being called, the body's not being called on to do any repair or
Right.
local
Right.
therapy. But mitochondrially, we're always needing energy. So when we add red light into our regime, we upregulate the total energy production of the body. So that means symptoms of aging, and that's why the beauty industry has been so successful in
Okay.
promoting red light. But where I'm really interested in is that aging, as we get older, we get those aches and the pains, and
Yeah. Yeah.
things just slow
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
So what red light therapy and photobiomodulation is doing is it's allowing us to get more energy, which is
Okay.
effectively allowing us to be biologically more energetic than our age.
Okay. I mean, that sounds like a pretty good thing. I mean, I know about getting old and all the aches and pains that come with it. It sounds to me like a great proposition. And what is it that started you on this path? I mean, we'll come back to a bit more about what you're doing in a second, but how did you kind of get into this world? I mean, how did you make the leap from kind of sports and into this world? Because it's quite a different sort of world, I would have thought.
Yeah, it's the difference, but as they say in Thailand, same but different. So what happens is my journey is from through fitness into spa into functional medicine, anti-aging. I even ran an integrative oncology clinic for a while. So during 30 years, I've always purchased a lot of equipment. And when I was first introduced to photobiomodulation, I was showing handheld devices. I was showing panels, which were very popular. But as an athlete, I was thinking, have you ever played a game of anything, in my particular case, rugby? And then after that game, the last thing you want to do is stand up for 20 minutes facing a wall for accelerated recovery.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
My mum was claustrophobic, so the other application is like a tanning bed style,
Right.
cocoon style. And again, if you've ever had an injury, the last position you want to be in is laying flat. Um, Also, in that protocol, they often want you with minimal, if any, clothing and then goggles on to protect your eyes. Again, if you've ever played sport, you can imagine what your teammates are going to do if
Yeah.
you're in that
Yeah.
position.
Yeah.
So, by studying the research and applying that exercise physiology knowledge into that, we absorb the photons, the bodies use that energy to wherever the body's signaling.
Yeah.
The energy lounger was born from that application. So then, of course, it's considered a bit of equipment. So people are making a choice to buy or not buy, or
Mhm.
they're comparing you with another device. What I've always said is, from my 30 years of industry, I don't sell the energy lounger. I sell a solution for your business and work with you. And I even got a message last night. Hey, how do I put this therapy into a program that we're developing? So that's, we provide a solution, not just a product, which sounds, oh, isn't everyone doing that? But I can tell you, as a guy that's bought pretty much every device on the market, they're your best friend until they get the sale, and then they're gone because they're chasing the next sale, the next
Yeah. Yeah.
person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and that's really why I could develop that, because even as a program developer, it's saying, hey, this fits within what you've got, or why don't you also look at this that will make your outcome for your patients better?
Yeah. Okay. Let me ask you about how you built it. I mean, you made that sound really simple. My guess is it was a bit more complicated. I mean, just give us a flavor of some of that. How did you go about taking it from an idea to actually having a physical product? Because that's always an interesting journey in my experience.
Oh, 100%. So the journey was I was at a trade show in Hong Kong looking at equipment. There was a booth there that had a range of equipment on there. I took the information. I put that down on my table where I was building these programs for this retreat. And I called them up and I said, do you have anything like an ergonomic chair where this technology is integrated? They said, no one has that. It doesn't exist on the market. We're one of
Wow.
the leading manufacturers. But one of our factories is in Shenzhen. And Shenzhen was 40 minutes away from where I lived. So I called up the CEO. He's a Dutch gentleman. And I arrived at the factory, um, got a factory tour, saw what existed. As you do with Dutch people, you sat down and they gave you a beer. Luckily, it was late afternoon, not in the morning. So over the first beer, we basically brainstormed. I talked about how in the spa world, we're buying ergonomic lounges
Yeah,
that are
yeah.
heated Italian marble for 15, 20,000 dollars. I'm talking about what I've studied in the science, what the wavelengths are. I got feedback from them because they're literally on the ground doing the research and understanding all the nanometers. And over the course of just 4 meetings, actually, of about an hour and a half, we went through what we wanted included. We did get a bit crazy in the brainstorming. That had nothing to do with the beer. It was just what are the possibilities in this space. Um, then it really went into that experience of more is not always more. When we have technology, things will go wrong at some point. So it really came back to that fundamental design. How do we make this bit of equipment live forever? In the beauty industry, what they'll do is they'll sell you a laser. 12 months later, they've come out with a new laser that's totally different, but actually not that much different from the year before. But because the next model has a bigger number, then they're really advertising and promoting
Yeah,
the
yeah.
benefits of that. They ignore the year before. I don't like that for many reasons, but one of them is just the environmental element of, we're just back into consuming what happens with the old equipment. So it's built modular. So even in years from now, if they come up with a better wavelength, we have modular design that we can just upgrade those components to
Right.
make it easier. But the journey was during COVID, so that slowed us all down quite
Right.
a bit. Um, but then the first launch was just again, we on paper knew what we had on the initial testing, we knew what we had, but as soon as it hit the market, then we really found out where our niche was and who's early adopters, who are
And
adopters
who
that
and
want to
who
wait
were
and
they?
see.
Let me ask you, who were those early adopters? I mean, was it health clubs or medical centers? I mean, who were the first people to buy it?
Yeah, so the first two sales, one was to a plastic surgeon in Beverly Hills
Wow.
for accelerating repair and recovery
Yeah, yeah,
post-surgery,
yeah.
and the other was to a biohacking studio in Long Beach, California, and then also a established day spa. So
Wow.
those were the first sales, and then from there, our reach went into the chiropractic world and into the sports performance world, working with both professional athletic teams, professional athletic training development teams. So, especially where you have these academies,
Yeah.
and you'll see a lot of academies where people drop out or they get injured. So, we really fit into that space where we can help prevent those players get injured
Yeah.
because we can accelerate repair and recovery. And I'm happy to announce that one of the groups we work with, they just had 26 people get drafted into the NFL that have been using our
Wow.
technology daily in their recovery platform.
Wow. Well,
So
that's really good
that's,
news, isn't it? That'd be a big boost.
yeah.
I mean, on that point, what would you say you're building towards? I mean, do you want to work with every sports club in the world? I mean, what's the plan?
So and I'm not joking when I say this, I said it's world domination. We have
Yeah.
distribution in Europe, Middle East, Australia, New Zealand, Africa, US, South America. So we followed all the standards that are needed to import and export and operate within those countries, either as a wellness device or as a medical device. Because it's truly a Swiss Army knife of who we can help. I'm with a studio down in New Zealand that deals with special populations, people that have multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's
Wow.
disease,
Wow.
and they are giving them a workout. And after the workout, they come and do the recovery. I'm working with biohacking studios and making sure that the journey of the client is well explained. So the client learns why they're doing that so they can help understand that it's not just for beauty, it's truly for energizing the body.
Yeah.
And we also work with employee lounges. So people that understand the more that you can keep your staff, we used to say earn the commute post COVID, but that we can keep the staff productive away from getting injured, neck pain, shoulder pain, lower back pain, the more productive they are and the more
Yeah.
loyal they are to the company.
Yeah.
So it's truly, as I say, the reason it's designed as a seat is wherever someone can sit down, they can have an experience in a session.
Yeah. And what does success like look to you? I mean, if you're looking down the track, I mean, where do you want to get to? What would, you know, and perhaps what do you want your legacy to be?
So I think I think first of all, we were the first to design an ergonomic
Yeah.
photobiomodulation delivery system. So we are truly a pioneer. We're still the only sensor activated red light therapy device. So a lot of devices are either on or off. Again, I'm thinking, hang on a minute, we're in the age of touch screen. Why don't we do touch photobiomodulation? Why
Yeah.
are we illuminating and burning all of these electricity and these bulbs if we're not truly using them because people are
Yeah.
different shapes and sizes? So personally, I want to develop more consumer-friendly products that are able to be used in the home, really for those pain and inflammation and disease models. So if we look at things like diabetes, we have new research coming out on particular wavelengths that can truly benefit diabetic patients. That means
Wow.
less diabetic ulcers, less amputations, because we can enhance energy that stops those things happening. And in that space, keep it so user friendly and that interface so acceptable that it just becomes part of an easy day routine. I always say the do it to me is the easiest treatment to receive. So when you come in and you literally just, it's not complicated to do it, but you get a very advanced outcome by just
Yeah.
having
And
it being
I'm
done
a
to
great
you.
believer that if you want people to do things, make it easy for them. I mean,
Yeah.
why would you want to make it difficult for people to experience something that's going to make them feel better? I mean, so I get that. And let me ask you about being the CEO. I mean, a lot of people I talk to say, building a company is like riding a roller coaster. I mean, I think that's pretty true, actually. There are definitely upsides and downsides, and everything in between. What is it about this that particularly motivates you to kind of bounce out of bed every morning and keep, plugging away at building the business? What is it personally that motivates you?
So when I was young, my mum used to make me walk on her back to help her get out of back pain.
Oh,
Um, I'm the oldest of four, so my three younger sisters, I figured at some point I will pass the reins over to my sisters because my mum wants that done to her. But as soon as I did that, I took myself off and learned therapeutic massage for back pain. So I did that when I was 15 years of age. And I could tell very quickly that these hands could help 5 to 6 people a day, maybe up to 8 people.
hmm.
And then they got worn out. I then moved into that personal training rehab space and realized that using some technology, I could sort of double that. I could,
Yeah,
do
okay.
a few people
Yeah,
an hour. Now that I've developed this and we can have thousands of units around the world, I can literally help millions of people every day out of pain and inflammation.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine
Um,
that'll make you feel good. I mean,
yeah,
it's a really good thing to do, isn't it?
yeah.
You know.
And as far as being the CEO and what drives me, I mean, I always give the analogy being an entrepreneur CEO is like being a father again. You've got no sleep. You don't want anyone left alone with your baby. It gets sick. It has times of absolute joy and it has times of
Yeah.
absolute
Yeah.
fatigue.
Yeah.
So it's just understanding that's part of the journey and just mentally being positive, even when things are not going. We've been through tariffs recently. We're
Yeah.
currently going through a war in the Middle East. Um, Literally, my clients and my friends in the Middle East, the buildings next to them were being bombed.
Yeah.
Um, so that will come to an end. It's just, it's unfortunate for those people going through that, but
Yeah.
also from a business perspective, there's nothing you can do about that. So just I focus on what I can control.
Yeah.
When things do slow down, it also allows me to work on the business rather than just constantly in the business.
Yeah. It's a tough gig, though, isn't it, building a business, I think. And what is it that you like, or is there anything you particularly like or dislike about being CEO?
Um, I think the best part is the buck stops with me, right? I mean, I make the decisions, I make the calls. Um, I think with any leadership role, the challenges are you're not only working with people, but you're working outside of your organization that you cannot control.
Mm.
So one of the things that is a challenge when launching this business was logistics. How
Mm.
can we get people to respect our equipment when they're shipping it from A to B? I've had forklifts drive through um, packaging containers. I've had equipment delivered upside down, even though it shipped on six-wheel trolleys. I did an event in Australia where customs held on to my equipment. So again, I can't control those things, but the sort of the first hire is who's handling my logistics so I can get out of that first role. And I love the sales cycle. I mean, I love it because it's educational. It's not transactional.
Mm.
And when I onboard sales teams and we work both in-house and with external partners in sales, getting them that understanding of what we're doing.
Yeah. I mean, I think understanding the sales process pretty important for any CEO, really, because even if you're not gonna, if even if you're not able to, if you don't have to do it yourself, you need to know that whoever you've brought in is doing the right thing. And sales is very particular to the nature of the product that's being sold and the market you're selling into. There's no one standard way to sell anything, I don't think. So that I think is always an interesting area. Let me ask you, how would you say your values, I mean, you mentioned values a second ago. How would you say your values have shaped the way the business has grown?
I think it's because we actually care what we're doing. I mean, we're not a transactional company. I'm not trying to sell you shampoo and you choose my brand over another brand. I'm literally comparing and giving education on here's the efficacious reason for
Mm.
choosing this device. I go to many trade shows and I hear different salespeople putting down other competitors, like saying, for example, they have X amount more of light bulbs, or they have this, they have that.
Yeah.
What I say to people is we will never put down another company. We will just say we have a different approach to this and we've built it from the ground up in
Mm.
this way. We didn't take existing technology and change out bulbs or move anything. We literally built this for the industry from the ground up. And that value runs through how we talk to our clients, how we service our clients, how we talk to each other in the organization,
Mm.
um, and how we plan the future. So as I grow, I have to work with distributors around the world, and those distributors need to inherit those modules, and that's different across cultures.
Yeah.
Um, you
Yeah.
know, I work with a Vietnamese distributor, for example. So it's training their team, it's explaining everything that we do as Energy Lounger, not as Barry Warrington, the CEO, but this is the solution because, for example, they sell fitness equipment. So we're not a treadmill or a
No,
bicycle.
no.
We are truly adjusting biology from our uh, core value of why we do business.
Yeah. And as you've built the company, have you faced any particular surprises when you thought, oh God, I didn't think it would turn out like that? I mean, you had any of those on the journey?
I mean, I've just mentioned the logistics part of it, but also I think the distributor part of it. So as we build up distributors around the world, um, it's interesting to see how different regions have
Yeah,
different
work in
outcomes.
different ways. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and there's sometimes where I've known for a long time distributors as a client because I've been purchasing equipment from them for years, but then as a supplier, how different I'm treated. And that was a surprise. I thought, oh, that's interesting because it's not the same. As a
No.
client, you are the god. You are the as a supplier, you're just one of a multitude of people. Which, I mean, I personally think, from a relationship standpoint, that maybe could be improved across the
Yeah,
industry.
it's not that helpful, is it?
I just always have focused on a win-win, not a win-lose.
Yeah, yeah,
And we provide a solution not just immediately as a piece of kit, but we're an ongoing resource for that business development and growth together.
yeah.
So
Let me
although
ask
it's a
you, and let me ask you about one of the things you just touched on about uncertainty. I mean, I don't, well, I mean, I don't know for certain, but it seems to me that the world is pretty volatile just at the moment. There is just huge amounts of uncertainty. It doesn't matter where you look, you know. Um, how do you kind of help? I mean, how do you cope with the uncertainty? And how, more importantly, actually, how do you help your team deal with that? Because I think, you know, when things are constantly changing, when you're never quite sure what's going to happen tomorrow or the day after, that takes a really, that's really tough on people. I mean, what's your take on dealing with that?
so we were born during COVID. I remind everyone that.
Yeah,
Now, everyone remembers COVID, but we've all kind of forgotten how bad it was in a lot of
yeah,
places. I'm
yeah,
personally from New Zealand. I couldn't even get home. So um, all these things will pass, and it's just control what you are able to control.
mm.
Positive mental attitude will always beat a negative mental
Yep,
attitude.
yep,
And if you're struggling, let's work on that together as a team. Um, Laughing is the best medicine,
yeah.
so I never take it too seriously. If people aren't laughing 4 or 5 times every hour, we're doing something wrong in our organization.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting point, actually, about because it keeps morale up, doesn't it? If you're able to have a bit of banter and a bit of a joke, you know, that keeps morale up, and that's what keeps people going, isn't it? Really?
Well, I just think about, as a young employee, what I liked about working where I was working and why I left places that I didn't
Yeah,
like I was working in. And I think it always comes back to how good a rapport do you have with people because you spend so
yeah,
much time together.
yeah,
Um, and and we just have to remember we're still people working with an
yeah.
organization. Doesn't matter about AI or the technology we're
No,
using, it's still human connection.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Let's just talk about what you've learned from the experience. I mean, you've been on a bit of a journey, you know. I mean, you've done brilliantly well, I think. I mean, you've got this technology being distributed globally. I mean, it's really exciting stuff. It makes people feel good. I mean, that's all, what's not to love, really? I mean, it sounds great. To what extent has luck helped you and your business be successful?
I think we make our own luck. I honestly do think that. So, we just recently went through tariffs. Um, but I was already talking with people that, we built Energy Lounger during COVID because we're a business solution.
Mhm.
We know these things will pass, and we are geared at a price point, at a intersection of improving your business, your revenue, your outcomes, your loyalty in that consumer environment, more so than some devices that are considerably more expensive than ours.
Mm.
So from the outset, that was our approach. So if you're coming out of tariffs and you're looking at a device that's $100,000, or you're looking at a device that's $40,000 with a very fast ROI, that's our luck. we luckily built it like that. So um, that is again my experience coming into like when we've, you know, the whole career there's been turmoil. We've gone through the financial Asian crisis. We've gone through
Yeah.
SARS outbreaks. We've gone. If you really
It's
look at the
kind of
whole,
never ending, isn't it? There's
it's kind of
always
never ending.
something about to go wrong.
Correct.
Yeah. And it's all about your mindset, really, because it's just about figuring out ways through it, I think, and kind of keeping positive despite all the things that you're being battered by. And what is it about the business that excites you the most? I mean, when we've spoken about it, you've always been super enthusiastic about it. What is it that excites you the most, particularly in terms of the next phase that you're kind of moving into? I mean, anything in particular?
I think the testimonials that I get from people that have
Mm,
brought energy lounges and using it regularly on their clients and their patients is always going to be my
yeah.
biggest. That puts a smile on my face, no matter how or what's going on in the world. It's just like, hey, Barry, this double amputee vet has just improved the nerve endings of his amputee legs by doing sessions with us. And I'm like, on paper, that should work. But when you hear it firsthand, you're just like, wow, that's,
Yeah, yeah.
that's
And it's
incredible.
great to see people doing well, isn't it? I mean, it really is kind of inspiring, I think.
Just getting anyone out of pain or improving their
Mm.
health, it's honestly the best part of working in photobiomodulation because I'm now out of my own way. Before I was so
Yeah,
hands-on in the trenches training other people. Now it's literally like, if you follow this plan, this will be the outcome. And people that call me up and we check in with them regularly, but I've got a clinic right now that he's a mentor of many other clinics. And all he literally says is, Energy Lounger gave me the plan, follow the plan. That's all you have to do. You don't have to think. You don't have to bring in your own. I just took, and he says Barry's plan because he knows me personally, but he took the Energy Lounger blueprint and implemented it.
mm. I mean, that must be very rewarding to see that happen. Let me ask you about the flip side, though. Talk, I mean, tell us about, I mean, most entrepreneurs say they make lots of mistakes. I mean, tell us about the biggest mistake that you've made and what did you learn from it?
Well, I think we make mistakes every day.
Yeah,
The idea is not to make too many big ones.
yeah,
I think whenever you're starting a business, and for me, I've always been in the service industry, so hotels, hospitality, clinics, etc., to set up a true distribution of worldwide, just understanding how much physical cash that's going to take and how much you need to keep in reserve because you are going to hit these road
yeah,
bumps. You are going
yeah,
to have these. Um, so I learned again, we were doing with tariffs once that kicked in, having just been the first time really selling equipment, distributing equipment, not understanding that payment cycle of where people go. They'll still come to the trade shows, they'll still show up and be present, but they're not buying.
mm,
And the investment per trade show for Energy Lounger, by the time we've shipped everything, paid flights, accommodation, we're talking $10,000 to $15,000 a show.
yeah. It's not a cheap
Um,
activity, is it?
no, and normally you've got 10 lined up. So you can imagine the business model is make the investment, make a sale, make the investment, make a sale. Well, you make the investment, you make the investment, you make the investment, you make the
Yeah,
investment, and you've got four no sales. You've got a great book of follow up, but because no one's buying,
yeah,
you are at some point having to go, oh, we need to reevaluate this,
yeah. I mean,
or
that
we
sort of
will.
stuff is tough mentally, isn't it? When you keep getting rejections. I mean, I think that's just so hard.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it like understanding the cycle is the mistake that I made because I'll give you an example. We did a show last September. We're in May now. The client's buying now. So we didn't lose the sale, but we didn't get the sale in September, which was the plan. And that
Mm,
was the mistake that I made that because we were having so much traction, people understood they loved the story, they loved the collaboration. I just didn't understand when
Mm.
things like tariffs kick in, or I was lucky because as soon as I saw the war kick off, I'm like, all right, now I know what's going to happen. People are going to show up, they're not going to buy. So maybe how do we look at how do we change that investment so it's not a $10,000-$15,000 investment to go to this event?
Mm.
What can we do differently? How can we pivot that we lower those costs? And we've come up with some creative ways to do that. So
Well, that's
um,
good. I mean, that is good. I mean, that ability to adapt, pivot, if you like, evolve, given the way the circumstances changing. I mean, that's the key to building a business, I often think, because things just change. I mean, customer expectations change, the rules change on importing and export. I mean, stuff just changes, and it's the challenge is keeping up with it and figuring out how to, keep moving. I often think.
I couldn't agree with that more. I mean, as you say, you've got to get up, got to get up, you've got to show up, got to have
Yeah,
that belief, got to have that positive mental attitude. And I'm I'm literally today planning a show that's happening in Dallas, a show that's happening in Thailand, an event that's happening in Vietnam, and I have to have all of that going, plus fulfill orders, plus train my sales team,
yeah,
plus
yeah,
follow up with things like podcasts and all of these things. But I'm truly privileged to say I love what I do.
yeah.
So as like with a relationship, there's sometimes that things are not exactly how you'd want it, but overall you just have to love the whole
Yeah,
big
yeah.
picture.
And certainly whenever I've spoken to you, you really come across as loving it. And I often think that's a big part of the battle, really. I mean, you know, um, it must be so hard if you hate the product or you hate the industry to make progress. But if you love it, it just makes life much more bearable, I think. Let me ask you about um, the journey. So, if you were going to start from scratch, knowing what you know now, if you were to go back to day one, is there anything you do differently, perhaps?
I I think there would be um, micro improvements to make everything just that little bit easier.
Hmm.
So, for example, identify a logistics partner earlier on, really
Okay.
vet them to what they're going to do. In the product design and development, because it's so expensive to build a mold, really we were very lucky that we were doing prototypes out of wood to make sure that we met the form and function. But it's things like um, I would look at doing a control panel so we can do payment gateways at the airport. So post production, 2 years down the track, 2.5 years, nearly 3 years down the track, we're now developing a control module for that application. I think if I launched with that, we'd already be in every airport that everyone flies to on a regular basis, because we didn't realize that would be a good application when we were designing it.
Yeah, yeah. Some of these things you just find out along the way, don't you?
Yeah, and you've got to be open to feedback. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
I dragged this thing to trade shows, and someone said, "Why don't you put a handle at the back of it?" And I said, "Because when we made the mold and the design, it's going into a clinic. You don't move it around every day in a clinic,
yeah,
but you do move it every day when you're doing a trade show.
yeah.
So
A good
there's
example
little
of how you live
tweaks
and
like
learn,
that."
isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, one last question. What advice would you offer a rookie CEO starting out on your journey? Anything in particular?
Understand your numbers from day one. Know how to read a P&L. Understand your supply chain. That means you do have to understand logistics, which is a learning that I
Yeah,
had.
yeah,
And remember, this is something you're going to have to love. And for the initial first 3 years, like bringing up a child, you're going to have some restless nights. You're going to have some hard work. So make sure you eyes wide open. It's not all orders are fulfilled and you're a multi-million dollar company and
mm,
you're placing the order for the boat and the sports car. It doesn't come as easy as you hope it would, but the journey is definitely worth it to get to that outcome.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I also think I mean, my take on it. I mean, every entrepreneur I've spoken to says they'd like it to go faster, but it never does. So there's also something about being patient. I think it's like having a baby. It takes 9 months. It just
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
So anyway, Barry, thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing that story. I mean, it's a great product. I mean, I love it. I think it's just a brilliant thing you've developed there. And this idea that you can help people at light speed. I mean, I know that's a slight exaggeration, but I mean, it's a lovely sort of um, it gives it a lovely feel to the fact that you can really help people that are struggling quickly to make them feel better. I mean, it's that I just think that's such a powerful thing, really. So, thanks for coming on and sharing the story and being willing to talk about it. And good luck going forward. I know you've got big ambitions. So good luck with the next stage, if you like.
Thanks, Paul. And yeah, thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed our conversation today. And for anyone listening that wants to learn more about us, please do go to our website, energylounger.com. We're constantly uploading testimonials. So I don't want you just to hear my words. I want you to hear true patient outcomes, client outcomes, and truly understand that light is giving you the ability to repair and recover biologically.
Yeah, and that's a really powerful concept, that, isn't it? People don't recognize how important that is. Anyway, like I said, Barry, we need to leave it there. Thanks for coming
All the
on. Great
best.
interview.
Thank
See you
you.
soon. Bye
Take
bye.
care. Bye now.